Hey guys, Falcon 25 here, watching the launch of GPS-3, Space Vehicle 3.
Falcon's in startup. AFTS configured for flight.
Launch director is
And
announced.
you
We're
should be
inside
able
of a
to
minute.
tell.
We are in startup on the flight computers. We are
Well, you
also
should tell,
beginning
yeah,
to
this is
pressurize
obviously a
stage
top
1
SpaceX
and stage
Falcon
2
9.
for launch.
Mission directors, go for launch.
Good. The weather is
We've
green.
heard the final call outs.
The launch did
Mission
get delayed
director,
15
launch
minutes,
director
the
are
end
go
of the
for
window.
launch. So at T-minus
Because of
30
bad weather.
seconds coming up, all systems are go for launch of Falcon 9 with
T-minus
GPS-3
30
Space
seconds.
Vehicle number 3.
Also, just to clarify, this is for the United States Space Force, which has taken over basically the Air Force's space operations. T-minus 20. These are new fairings, by the way. These aren't reused. The new
T-minus
ones are
15
starting
seconds.
to have been reused. T-minus 10.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6,
The water deluge
5,
system is on.
4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Liftoff.
Liftoff, there we go.
Go Falcon, go GPS.
And you see the strong back Falcon 3 now. There will be attempts made to recover this booster
Vehicle is pushing down range.
bearings.
Be chamber
They
pressure.
won't have to catch those. The earlier GPS satellites SpaceX launched, they didn't attempt to recover the booster because they weren't sure there would be enough margins there. Thus, you might notice something different about the upper stage of the Falcon 9. There's that grey band around it. That's apparently for thermal reasons.
T plus 40 seconds, we've heard call outs. And now we're entering the throttle
Power
bucket.
and
We're
telemetry
powering down the
nominal.
Merlin engines to relieve the acceleration as we get ready for the period of maximum dynamic pressure. We're in the throttle bucket. Now we're beginning to power back up. We hear the call out exiting throttle bucket. The 9 Merlin 1D engines
Mach
going
1.
back to full power. And we are now supersonic.
And maximum dynamic pressure about. Well, should be about now. There we go, now.
Max Q.
Guidance engineer calls out max Q, the period of maximum dynamic pressure, or Q, on the vehicle.
As you can
From
see,
this point forward, although we go faster and faster, the thinner atmosphere will put less loads on the airframe of the rocket.
As you can see, as the pressure decreases,
Coming
you
up
could
next is
just about
chilling
see
of the upper stage
You can see
engine.
the plume spreading, but you can see it kind of going up.
We've got a
Like
good
under one of the
trajectory.
landing
Back
legs.
in chill started.
We've begun the
See
chilling
it
of the
going
upper
up.
stage engine. Power on the Merlin 1D engines looks good. Avionics reports everything is nominal. And we're T plus 2 minutes into flight. Next major activity in half a minute, shutdown of the 9 Merlin engines, separate the first and second stage, and ignite the second stage engine to carry GPS and the second stage into the first of 2 orbits today. This one will be the initial parking orbit.
And depending on how long the mission's going to last, I may or may not stick around for the second burn. I might just leave after the
Falcon 9
first
preparing
stage
for
engine cut
MECO.
off. First, second engine cut off. Okay, you've got
And
MECO
MECO.
Stage separation confirmed.
there. There you go. And MVAC ignition. See the vehicle angle.
And we've confirmed ignition of the second stage engine after a good stage 1, stage 2 SEP. You could see briefly the Falcon 9 first stage in the background.
Both vehicles are following nominal trajectories.
Call out that both vehicles are following the planned trajectory. First stage continuing to coast to apogee, where it'll then slowly turn around and descend back to the drone ship for landing in the Atlantic Ocean. The second stage engine beginning the long burn to get it into the parking orbit.
Acquisition of signal, Maryland.
Coming up, fairing deploy. Waiting to see the camera switch forward.
There we go.
Fairing separation confirmed.
There we go.
And we've got fairing separation.
Ooh,
The two halves of the Falcon 9 fairing separating.
That was a
the
bit
pneumatic
nerve-wracking,
system
actually.
unlatching the locks that hold it together, and then the pneumatic pushers separating the two halves. As the fairing falls away from the vehicle, we can see on the left side of the screen the grid fins, the large titanium castings that are mounted to the first stage
Those
have
are made out of a
deployed.
solid piece of
They'll be used
titanium
later
that
as we
are
come back
machined
into
down.
the atmosphere for precision
They're-
guidance of the
They are
first stage
very
to land on the
expensive.
drone ship. On the right-hand side, we see the second stage
Acquisition
engine
signal
continuing to burn. It's at full power. Everything's looking good with the trajectory. So at just past T plus 4 minutes into flight, everything is go on the flight of Falcon 9 with GPS-3, space vehicle number 3.
And hopefully we'll stay that way then. The GPS-3 system, it's basically just a more powerful and more
Plus
advanced
4
GPS
minutes and
satellites.
25 seconds into flight. We're currently in the first of 2 planned Merlin vacuum engine burns. Currently looking at the data, the second stage engine burn is nominal. On your left-hand screen, you can see the first stage as it's performing that reorientation that John and I talked about. The grid fins are deployed, and you're seeing some thruster plumes there from the attitude control system that are getting it ready so that the 9 Merlin 1D engines are pointed towards the atmosphere as it re-enters into Earth's atmosphere. Beautiful views of the planet beneath both the first stage and the second stage. Second stage is continuing into its burn. We're expecting this burn
Both
to
vehicles
last
continue to
about
follow nominal
5
trajectories.
minutes and 15 seconds. And entry burn will actually begin on the first stage in just about a minute from now. During the entry burn, we'll ignite 3 of the Merlin 1D engines on the first stage. That'll give us a chance to slow down the stage as it ends up re-entering the Earth's atmosphere and reduce the aerodynamic loads as it starts to bite into the thicker parts of the air around our planet. You can see the Merlin vacuum engine on your right-hand screen, the nozzle extension there growing red hot. That's expected. We're really, we have such a long nozzle extension on there to try to get the most performance out of the pressure coming out of the thrust chamber on the second stage engine.
You want to get as much of that going kind of
so coming up here in about
direction you want your rocket
15 seconds is entry burn. Watch for that on your left-hand screen. That'll ignite 3 of the Merlin 1D engines. While second stage continues to burn towards that elliptical orbit with the GPS vehicle on board.
Stage 1 FTS is saved.
Okay, you can see the grid fin starting to move now. There's the entry.
Stage 1 entry burn is started.
There's successful ignition of the 3 Merlin 1D engines on the first stage. We're expecting this burn to last just about 30 seconds.
That's what slowed down. Use the plasma as a heat shield in and of itself, basically. Okay, there we go.
Stage 1 entry burn shutdown.
You see some bursts there. Successful shutdown of the engine and some attitude control bursts just to get that orientation right. Now, once we get into the thicker parts of the atmosphere where those grid fins have some aerodynamic control authority, they will do most of the guiding to take the first stage towards our drone ship, named Just Read the Instructions, which is about 350 nautical miles off the east coast of Florida. Coming up at about 50 seconds from now, we'll have 2 events happening about the same time. The first stage will ignite its single center Merlin 1D engine for landing burn. About the same time, the second stage will perform secondary engine cutoff.
Stage 2 has entered terminal guidance.
Or SECO number 1.
Yeah, looking about how long the gap is.
While those 2 things occur, about 25 seconds later, the first stage will hopefully touch down on our drone ship. In between there deploying its landing legs. So watch for that on your left-hand screen.
Stage 2 FTS is saved.
Of course, we might not get footage all the way
Drone ship AOS.
Although recently they have
Stage 1 landing burn is starting.
Ignition of that center Merlin engine on the first stage.
SECO 1.
There we go,
Successful confirmation of shutdown of the Merlin vacuum engine. The guidance engineer is evaluating the orbit of the second stage now.
Okay.
Nominal parking orbit.
Nominal parking orbit,
Landing
that's exactly what we want to hear.
Oh, yep.
Landing leg deployment looks like right down the center.
Yep, bit of a, yep, that's to be expected. But it looks like they have
and
landed.
stage 1 is landed. Recovery operators move into
I see it for stage. Excellent.
Yep, there it is.
So that's, you know, we first flew Falcon 9 10 years ago, actually this month. Since then, it's completed 88 missions, and now the most flown operational rocket in the United States. This mission completed its first landing, and hopefully we'll have many more to come. The vehicle is now, we're actually going to enter into our first coast phase now that we know that the second stage is in a successful parking orbit. That coast phase will last about 54 minutes and will end with our second stage relight at about T+1 hour and 3 minutes. We're going to come back shortly before that to cover the second engine start, number 2. Now, as we had mentioned earlier, today's mission is dedicated by the Space Force to the memory of Colonel Thomas Falzerano, commander of the 21st Space Wing at Peterson Air Force Base in Colorado. As a leader of the Air Force's 5th largest wing, he commanded a workforce of approximately 4,300 space professionals worldwide. We'll now hear from General Raymond and a number of Colonel Falzerano's colleagues in the Air Force and Space Force about the impact he had on all those he worked with.
I'm signaling for the memorial message. I'm keeping this in for obvious reasons.
I can think of no better way to honor Colonel Tom Falzerano and his family than with today's launch of our 3rd GPS-3 satellite from Cape Canaveral. As a former commander of the 45th Operations Group, Tom not only understood the critical importance of our launch capabilities here on the Eastern Range, but he dedicated his entire military career to ensure our nation's space capabilities like GPS continue to fuel our modern way of life and our modern way of war. Tom was an incredible officer, leader, father, and friend who made a difference. He was in his prime as he led the 21st Space Wing at Peterson Air Force Base at such a critical point in our nation's history. Before that, he served as my senior executive officer, who worked tirelessly behind the scenes and put in long hours as we established the United States Space Command, our nation's 11th Combatant Command, and the United States Space Force, our newest branch of the Armed Services.
Also signal Maryland's expected.
Tom made a difference in the lives of his teammates and those he led. He will always be remembered for caring for his people while taking care of the mission. Tom had that unique gift of connecting with everyone he came in contact with. He always had a smile and a word of encouragement, no matter how demanding the situation was. Tom made a difference in the lives of his family. No one loved family more than he did. And in fact, Tom made us all feel like we were part of his family. As we watch today's Falcon 9 soar high into space, let Tom's legacy be a reminder for all of us to make a difference every single day, and how our greatest legacy is found in the relationships and the investments we make in the people around us. My sincere thanks to SpaceX, the 45th Space Wing, and the entire launch team for honoring Tom's legacy.
Nobody knew how much the United States and our international allies rely on space capabilities every minute of every day more than Colonel Tom Falzerano. Tom took his mission responsibilities very seriously, but he was passionate about developing and taking care of the people under his command. Although we lost him well before his time, his outstanding legacy will live on through the air and space professionals he led and mentored during his 26-year career. For Tom's family, and in honor of his memory, on behalf of the 6,000 professionals of the Space and Missile Systems Center, we will continue to protect and defend the global commons of space and continue to mentor our people, which he so clearly cherished.
Today's launch is dedicated to a warrior, a husband, a father, a friend, an American hero, and a man whose example and leadership will continue to influence our Air and Space Force well into the future. We're dedicating today's launch to Colonel Thomas Falzerano, who was the commander of the U.S. Space Force's 21st Space Wing when he tragically passed away a few weeks ago. In a way, dedicating this GPS-3 launch to Tom is wholly appropriate, as this next-generation satellite provides navigational guidance to the nation and the world. So did Tom provide lasting guidance and inspiration to all those he led and served with. It has been our great privilege to have known and served with Tom Falzerano, and we are proud to dedicate this launch to him.
Colonel Falzerano was a strong, steady leader who was an instant friend to everyone he met. He built lasting connections everywhere he went, and he cared intensely about everyone. Here at the 21st Space Wing, we miss him every day, but we'll honor him and continue our mission. Strength and preparedness always.
Colonel Falzerano led us by example to give of ourselves completely and compassionately. He taught us what it is to be built to last, to ensure what we build today will outlive us and last for those who come after us. As we reach again to the stars, let us strive even higher to be built to last.
It's only fitting this launch today be dedicated to Colonel Tom Falzarano, a great American hero. On behalf of the 50th Space Wing and the men and women of Schriever Air Force Base, thank you for your service, thank you for your sacrifice, and most importantly, thank you for your partnership over the course of the last year.
Colonel Falzarano, teammate, leader, wingman, guide. Much like the GPS, you get people to where they ought to be. Proud to have served with you.
Colonel Tom Falzarano was a true friend of the 30th Space Wing and a personal friend of mine. I've known Tom for over 20 years when he and I were captains together at the 564th Missile Squadron in Great Falls, Montana. Tom is the kind of person who would do whatever he could to help another airman. He looked out for the folks that he led, and he looked out for his peers. And it was my privilege for the time that we were serving as wing commanders together to serve next to him.
Chief, sir, I had the pleasure of working with Colonel Falzarano as a teammate in Air Force Space Command headquarters. Consummate professional, consummate leader. You're missed, sir.
We're gonna miss you, Tom.
It is so fitting that we as an Air and Space Force remember Colonel Tom Falzarano with this GPS launch. Tom spent a lot of time in Florida, and in particular, as the 45th Operations Group Commander, he sat on crew for many of our nation's most important launches. Tom was truly a people person who loved his airmen and enjoyed hearing their stories. He was caring and kind to everyone he met and always found time to brag about his family. To Stacy and the children, it is our honor to represent the 14,000 men and women of Team Buckley and honor Tom for his leadership and service to this nation. For many of us who personally knew him, we'll light a cigar in his honor after a successful launch. Here's a toast.
It's my pleasure, along with other leaders of the United States Space Force, to honor the life of Colonel Tom Falzarano during the SpaceX Falcon 9 launch of the next GPS satellite. Colonel Falzarano is a former commander of the 45th Operations Group, and his legacy is felt throughout the Eastern Range. We have a saying in the 45th Space Wing: once a shark, always a shark. And the sharks of the wing are so sad to hear of the passing of Colonel Falzarano. We'd also like to pass on our condolences and tell Stacy and the children that our thoughts and prayers are with them. Falzy, I just want to say thank you for your many years of friendship to me personally, and to your many years of service to the United States and the United States Space Force. You left us too young. You are and will continue to be missed. Thank you.
Well, I'm Boston 25. That was the launch of GPS 3 Vehicle 3. Goodbye.